प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter number 20. Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial area of Maharaj Prithu. And we are at the verse number, I think, 13. Yesterday we have covered two verses, I think, 11 and 12. Today 13. Today also there is some range problem for Mukundan Prabhu. He is in Vada only, Govardhan Eco Village. So we'll take two, three verses. We'll discuss about that and we'll conclude. So verse number 13. समानोत्तम मध्यमादम सुखे च दुःखे च जितेन्द्रियाशयाः मयोपकृताखिललोकसंयुतो विधस्त्व वीराखिललोकरक्षणम्. Yes, translation.
My dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised and treat people equally, whether they are greater than you, in the intermediate stage, or lower than you. Do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transcendental position, try to execute your duty as king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. For your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom. Purport. Here is an example of receiving direct instruction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. One has to execute the order of Lord Vishnu, whether receiving it directly from him or from his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. Arjuna fought the battle of Kurukshetra under the direct order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Similarly, here Prithu Maharaj is also being given orders by Lord Vishnu regarding the execution of his duty. We have to stick to the principles stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Vivasayatmika Buddhi. Every man's duty is to receive orders from Lord Krishna or from his bona fide representative and take these orders as his life and soul without personal considerations. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that one should not care very much whether he is going to be liberated or not, but he should simply execute the direct order received from the spiritual master. If one sticks to the principle of abiding by the order of the spiritual master, he will always remain in a liberated position. A common man must execute the rules and regulations of Varnashrama Dharma by working in his prescribed duty according to the caste system, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the spiritual order system, Brahmacharya, Grihastha Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. If one simply executes regularly and strictly the injunctions given for the different divisions of life, then one satisfies Lord Vishnu. As a king, Purtu Maharaj was ordered by Lord Vishnu to keep himself always aloof from the activities of the bodily situation and to engage always in the service of the Lord and thus keep himself in the liberated stage. The word Baddha Saurudha in the previous verse is explained herewith. One can fully remain in intimate connection with the Supreme Lord directly or receive orders from his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, and execute the orders sincerely when one keeps aloof from the activities of the body. The Lord helps us by giving us directions how to act in devotional service and thus advance on the path back home, back to Godhead. He instructs us outwardly in the form of the spiritual master. Therefore, one should not accept the spiritual master as an ordinary human being. The Lord says, Acharya Mam Vijaniyan Nava Manyeta Karchiti. One should not treat the spiritual master as an ordinary human being, for he is the substitute for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 11.17.27. One should treat the spiritual master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and never be envious of him or consider him to be an ordinary human being. If one follow the instruction of the spiritual master and execute devotional service to the Lord, we will remain always free from the contamination of bodily and material activities, and our life will be successful. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So here, Lord Vishnu is the spiritual master of King Prithu, and he is telling him, "My dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised and treat people equally, whether they are greater, intermediate, or lower than you. Do not disturb. Do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happinesses. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transcendent position, try to execute your duty as king. Whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement, Lord Vishnu's arrangement. For your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom." In purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining about the uh, two things: the duty of the king and one's duty in the Varnashrama Dharma. So one has to execute the orders of Lord Vishnu or the spiritual master, his bona fide spiritual master. Like Arjuna was fought in the battlefield of Kurukshetra under the direction of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna only. Like that, uh, we have to stick to the principles stated in Bhagavad Gita. The best principle in Bhagavad Gita is shown by Lord himself, that is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekehe Kurunandan. So we should take the instructions as our life and soul from the spiritual master. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is also explaining about the same thing. Whether one is going to be liberated or not, but one should be simply execute the direct order received from his spiritual master. Okay. Then given about for the common man must execute the rules and regulations of Varnashrama Dharma. That is for Varna and for Ashrama. Again, they are divided into by the Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, not the caste system. Again, in the next paragraph, Lord is explaining about the greatness of the spiritual master. We have to simply not ignore the spiritual master and not think that he is a common man, but he is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here it is given Acharya Mam Vijaniyan Now Manneta Karhichit. One should not treat the spiritual master as an ordinary human being, for he is the substitute for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we are following the instruction of the spiritual master and execute devotional service to the Lord, he will remain always free from the contamination of bodily material activities, and our life will be successful. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse. Text number 14. श्रेया प्रजापालनमेव राज्ञो यत्साम्पराये सुकृतात् षष्ठमंशम् हर्तान्यथा हत पुण्यप्रजानां रक्षिता करहारोह गमत्ति. Translation.
To give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state is prescribed occupational duty. Is the prescribed occupational duty for a king. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head of state who simply collects taxes from the citizens but does not give them proper protection as human beings has the result of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens. And in exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. Purport: the question may be raised here that if everyone engaged in spiritual activities, if everyone engaged in spiritual activities to attain salvation and became indifferent to the activities of the material world, then how could things as they are go on? And if things are to go on as they ought to, how can a head of state be indifferent to such activities? In answer to this question, the word Shreya, auspicious, is used here. The division of activities in society as arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead was not blindly or accidentally created, as foolish people say. The Brahmana must do his duty properly, and the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and even the Shudra must do the same. And every one of them can achieve the highest perfection of life, liberation from this material bondage. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 18.45. Sve sve karmani abhirata sham siddhim labhate nara. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can attain the highest perfection. Lord Vishnu advised Maharaj Pruthu that a king is not enjoined to give up his kingdom and the responsibility of protecting the prajas or citizens, to instead go away to the Himalayas for liberation. He can attain liberation while executing his royal duties. The royal duty or the duty of the head of state is to see that the prajas or the general mass of people are doing their respective duties for spiritual salvation. A secular state does not necessitate a king or head of state who is indifferent to the activities of the prajas. In the modern state, the government has many rules and regulations for conducting the duties of the praja, but the government neglects to see that the citizens' advancement in spiritual knowledge. If the government is careless in this matter, the citizen will act whimsically without any sense of God realization or spiritual life, and thus become entangled in sinful activities. An executive head should not be callous to the welfare of the general mass of people while he simply goes on collecting taxes. The king's real duty is to see that the citizens gradually become full Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious means completely free from all sinful activities. As soon as there is complete eradication of sinful activities in the state, then there will be no more war, pestilence, famine, or natural disturbances. This was actually prevailing during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira. If a king or the head of the government is able to induce the citizens to become Krishna conscious, then he is worthy to rule over the mass of people. Otherwise, he has no right to levy taxes. If the king looks after the spiritual interest of the citizens, he can levy taxes without difficulties. In this way, both the subjects and the king will be happy during this life. And in the next life, the king will be able to share 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. Otherwise, levying taxes on the sinful citizens, he will have to share the reactions of their sinful activities. This same principle can be applied to parents and spiritual masters as well. If parents simply give birth to children like cats and dogs but cannot save their children from imminent death, they become responsible for the activities of their animalistic children. Lately, such children are turning into hippies. Similarly, if a spiritual master cannot direct his disciple to become free of sinful activities, he becomes responsible for their sinful acts. These subtle laws of nature are unknown to the present leaders of society. Since the leaders of society have a poor fund of knowledge and the citizen in general are rogues and thieves, there cannot be an auspicious situation for human society. At the present moment, the whole world is full of such an incompatible combination of state and citizens, and therefore there is a constant tension, war, and anxiety as an inevitable result of such social conditions. Hare Krishna.
Yes, so it's very big purport. So here Lord is explaining to the Maharaj Prithu about the how to execute his duties as a head of the state to give the protection to the general mass of the people who are the citizen of the state according to the prescribed occupational duty of the king. By acting in that way, king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head or state who simply collects taxes and not giving the proper protection as a human beings has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens in the next life. And he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects only. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining about the duties of the king to give the protection to his citizens. And Bhagavad Gita 18.45 is confirmed. Here is mentioned, Karmani avirata samsiddhim labhate naraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, in the Varna and Ashram also it is mentioned here, we have to execute our prescribed duties, one can attain the highest perfection. In the next paragraph, it is explained, Maharaj Prithu, he is the king not enjoined to give up his kingdom and the responsibility of the protecting the prajas or citizens. And it is advised to the king here that it is not like he has to go to the Himalayas for the liberation, but he has to perform his duties, execute his duties properly to give the protection from the to the prajas, and then he may be able to levy the taxes from the kingdom or the praja. But Prabhupada is mentioning here in the modern days, it is not, the leaders are not like that. They are not taking care of the spiritual care of the citizens. And so citizens are acting whimsically without any sense of God realization or the spiritual life. So they are entangled in the sinful activities. Like previously, we have seen government is giving the permission to the liquor shops, brothels, and slaughterhouses. So these are the sinful activities then by the praja. So they are lacking the spiritual uh, activities. So this should not be the condition. Here, Prabhupada is giving the alert to the head of the state. Then in the next paragraph, it is explained that only the political leaders who are just levying the taxes and not taking care of the citizens to become them as a Krishna consciousness or any spiritual activities. So that's why these war, pestilence, and famine are there in the different countries. Now, in the present scenario, we are seeing that there are fighting, the countries are fighting like anything. Iran, Israel, America. That is the result of these things, not properly executing the duties as a king. Then it is mentioned here about the Maharaj Yudhishthira's life. He was the best king. He was taking care of all the citizens for their spiritual activities. So, and in the last paragraph, Prabhupada is mentioning about the two people like parents and the spiritual master. The same principle can be applied to the parents and spiritual master even. If the parent is simply giving the birth to the children and not taking care of their children about their spirituality and all that, then they are responsible for the activities of their animalistic propensities growing in the children. So such children are turning into hippies. Prabhupada is giving that example. And similarly, the spiritual master cannot direct his disciple to become free of sinful activities. He becomes responsible for their sinful act if he is not giving the proper education about the spirituality. So these subtle laws of the nature are unknown to the present leaders of society. So it is again mentioned about the state leaders. So this is the sole responsibility of the parents and spiritual master to give the proper education about the spirituality, Krishna consciousness. Then only all become happy. Okay, so we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all of you. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Prabhupada.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dhanvat Pranam. चल दे शुभा निकल